Welcome to The Next Man Up, where we explore the misconceptions and paradox around modern masculinity. Join me on my quest to seek the truth through unfiltered conversations with the men behind the masks, so women can better understand men and men can better understand themselves.
It's 2024. Why should I have to open the door for her?
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to open the door. And then why should I have to pay the bill? She makes money. Why can't we just split the bill? It's like, sure. But look how long that relationship will last, where it's passionate and sexy and desirable, and it's going to be, you become either best friends or she resents you because it's not sexy.
Because you're already entering it with animosity against the other, against the opposite sex. Why should I have to? Who hurt you back when that you're bringing that into someone that's anonymous at this point or that's new? Nic, introduce yourself.
I'm Nic Warner. I teach intimacy, masculine embodiment, and many other things that kind of fall into those realms.
And how did you get into this?
I was working as an architect. I was married. I was externally looking like I had a very good life. And internally I was deeply unhappy and a bit of a mess. Marriage broke down and I was left with I kind of landed on two options. I can try and do something about this and go and travel and do all the things that I've ever wanted to do, or I can kill myself because I'm depressed and waking up from nightmares, crying and sweating, and life is really unpleasant. So I decided to go traveling, and I went for 5 weeks, and it turned into 3.5 years and became this odyssey of what's the thing that scares me and what's the thing that excites me, and I'll just keep doing that until I'm done. And I was in India and kind of just in this moment of like, okay, what's next? I feel pretty complete. And I read Way of the Superior Man and just had this epiphany of like, oh my God, I'm not the only guy that goes through this. And I'd had friends say to me, I wish I could do what you do and just give up life and travel and do whatever.
I've had that response before too.
I was like, you can. And they're like, no, I've got a mortgage and kids and all these other things. And I realized that maybe if I took back what I was learning to guys that couldn't do it, there could be some benefit in that. So I started a men's circle, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, well, this could be a thing.
Right.
So COVID happened and I lost my job, and I was like, perfect.
Thank God, right?
Yeah.
Thank God.
COVID was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Yeah. So on this 5-year quest of sorts, what did you explore? What did you come across? What embodies all of your work?
I was very fresh. I had no understanding, no deeper insight that I followed. I'd read a couple of books. The first time I ever got onto this, the first time I ever got onto the spiritual path, I was at uni, and I was like 21, I think. And somebody said, read the Celestine Prophecy. Okay. And in it, it talks about synchronicities and energy and all of these things that appeared to be very woo-woo. And I went and met the author at some point because synchronicity happened, and I started to believe in this and to open my eyes to it. So I went to Tulum for the first thing and went to a wedding and kind of was going to go to Guatemala for 2 weeks, and it turned into 3 months, and that was the first little part of it. But in Tulum, I heard somebody talk about a dark room. Never heard of it. And the next day I heard somebody else talking about a dark room, and I kind of listened in. He's like, yeah, you just sit in a dark room for days. Why the fuck would you do that? And then I met a guy who became a mentor and a very, very dear brother. And he's like, yeah, don't go to Guatemala for anything else except a dark room. I did it. it's amazing. You have to do it.
How many days is darkroom?
It can be anything that you want. But something in me said 11 days.
Wow.
And the guy's like, no, the first time you do it, you should do it for 3 or 4 maximum. It's like, yeah, but I have this feeling that 11's a good number. And 3, the first day it's exciting. It's like new and wow, this is intense. And then day 2, it's like, oh, okay, this is tough. And then day 3, like, holy shit, I've got more than a week to go. And then day 4, I hit depths of my psyche that I was not wanting to see. And I couldn't escape. There's no distraction. You're not distracted by sight or sound or anything. It's just you're in it, and it's you and your mind. And the woman that would deliver me food through this kind of hole in the wall, she mentioned the word surrender, and I'd never heard of it before. And so that's an interesting concept. Let me try it. And I sat down, and the thoughts was like, oof. And then I just let them. I didn't try to escape them. And they came and they went. And then they came and they went. And they came and they kept on just moving through me like a cloud. I was like, wow, this is actually not so bad. And then after a certain amount of time, your brain starts to release or produce DMT, and it became an incredibly fascinating experience. And that was like the second month of this whole thing.
So it's the catalyst.
That was the you've got a lot of work to do.
And you had clarity on what was up next after that, I take it? Somewhat.
Up next was I need to get to Peru. So I got to Peru and I spent a lot of time in the jungle, and I was like, this is too much. It's not working.
Were you doing
ayahuasca? Yeah, I was drinking a lot of medicine, and it wasn't, I was having very difficult experiences, but there was no like, oh my God, I've just met God. Like it was just, this hurts. And I realized that my mind was just a mess. So I went back home for a couple of months just to kind of save some more money. And then I was like, I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to go sit in silence. And I did it. The last thing I did before I went home was a 10-day silent retreat. And it sucked.
I heard that's the most challenging. My friend Patrick, he did a vision quest, I think a 4-day one, which I thought would have been the hardest thing, hands down. Maybe equal to the dark retreat. But he said Vipassana was exponentially harder, exponentially, which I found very interesting, that like the worst thing in the world for us is being still in our own thoughts. Like literally, I would rather do 1,000 other horrific things, like disgusting, horrific things, than that. Is that what came out for you?
And that's why we distract ourselves with life. And no, the 10 days sucked. It was so uncomfortable. And I noticed how challenging it was. And so a few months later, I went back and I was like, I'll do this again. And I was 4 days in, on my way to a vision quest after, and 4 days in, and I'm like, this sucks so badly. And one of the women that was running it, she comes out and she says, if you want to extend it to 17 days, you can. And I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like what? And then it felt like the first time I'd ever heard my heart. And it's just like, oh yeah. And I'm like, no, we're not doing this. And my heart's like, oh yeah, we're doing this. 17. So I stayed for 17 days, and for 16 and 3/4 days, it sucked.
Can you explain what it is too? Just.
So this one's a bit different to Vipassana. So this one you can, they do an hour and a half of yoga every day, which is super helpful. And you can journal. And at lunch, you can go down to the ocean, because this is in Mexico. And I was thinking, it's like, this is like all my needs are met. What I don't need, like the food's provided, like ocean is here. All I have to do is sit. But my mind was just resistant, and we would meditate for 8 or 9 hours a day. And of the very last session of the second last day, we had one morning to go, and I gave up. I was like, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore. And in that giving up was surrender. And in that surrender, there was utter bliss. And I dissolved into, they call it samadhi. It's like this eternal bliss. And I was able to drop back in whenever I wanted. And it just became like the first time ever I meditated properly. So I came back the next day and it was like, oh my God, this is it. I can do it. I've finally managed to figure it out. I'm going to do this again in 3 weeks' time when they offer the next 10-day retreat. So 2 weeks later, our friend's like, hey, you know that we can do this for 40. And I'm like, oh. So 10 days later, I entered into 40 days of silence and it was incredible. It was truly a remarkable experience. And from then I went to the jungle and then I found breath work and then I went on all of these different paths. And then at some point towards the very end of the whole kind of 3.5 years, I found men's work. Mm-hmm. And I was like, fuck, this was the thing that I needed the whole time.
Did you like go join a circle, a group? Did you ever?
Yeah, I found a men's circle in Bali that I went to and just, there's a whole bunch of random guys just being able to share what was on their mind and on their heart. And it was like, wow, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
I
took your Complexities of Men course and I found it pretty fascinating. And it's been my mission to bridge the gap between the masculine and the feminine and make us more aware of each other and understand each other more. And I know that you like study Alison Armstrong's work, which I love. And I believe something you said that really stuck with me was that men yearn for freedom like women yearn for commitment.
For love.
For love, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's the feminine yearns for love, the masculine yearns for freedom. And so it's in, there's a part of me that yearns for deep love and there's a part of you that yearns for freedom. Mm-hmm. And it's in that understanding. And that's why I made that course. It's like, if we just understood each other, most of the time we're not doing something to hurt the other person and we're doing it because this is how we do it. It's just different.
Yeah.
And when we can understand that, it makes it so much easier.
Right. That's helped me a lot too, is the stages of manhood.
Yeah.
That helped me reconcile with so much like past pain in relationships, right? It's just, if the love is there, why aren't we doing the same thing? I don't understand. Can you explain the stages of manhood, just an overview of what that's like and what stage you were in when you entered this work and, what stage you're in now, and just tie it back?
So it's the framework from Alison Armstrong, which I love, because there is, the Carl Jung has these archetypes: king, warrior, magician, lover. And he has the mature archetypes and the immature archetypes. But what that does is there's a lot of boys running around calling themselves kings. Mm. And it's just not the reality. Like, they're just not even close. So Alison Armstrong frames it as you have a page, which is a boy, and the page just wants to grow up and be a knight. And the knight goes on an adventure and he has fun and he's all about, what's the thing that I get to do that's exciting? And it's difficult for him to commit to anything because he's not there. He's not ready for it. He wants to and needs to enjoy and hunt out the next exciting thing. Mm-hmm. But then at some point on his journey, he realizes that he wants to be a king, and it's not going to happen if he doesn't have purpose or legacy. So he enters into what she calls early prince. And early prince is this kind of exploration, discovery of, what do I want to do? What is the thing that is going to become my legacy? And once you find that, then you enter middle prince. And middle prince is the formation of your purpose and the building of your kingdom. And she says it takes 12 years on average. And it's rare that you find a man in his 30s that has kind of reached that pinnacle of that phase. And then you enter late prince, and late prince is this very brief moment where you have it all together. and you're ready to kind of enter into kinghood. And then you enter into the tunnel instead. And the tunnel is, she calls the midlife crisis. And this is the phase of life of, is this it? Is this really is this the hill that I'm going to die on? And once you kind of get through that, then you become king. And a king knows his place in the world. He knows exactly what he has to offer. And you can either have a queen that kind of builds him up and helps build his kingdom, or he waits until he becomes a king and then he looks for his queen. Mm-hmm. So then it's like, okay, here's the throne and now I'll invite someone in. But depending on when you meet a man and depending on which phase of life he is, it really changes the impact and kind of the level of commitment and the level of provision that he can offer.
What do you think the soonest you can meet a prince is, or what's that stage? And is there an awareness that needs to be brought to the relationship of like, okay, we're going to grow and we're going to do this together, and still this is a big risk because still we don't know where we're going to land? Or, does it take a certain type of woman? Is there stages of women that match this same apology?
I mean, for the women, it's just having the awareness of where he's at and what you need. Because some women are like, I am ready to have a kid. And if you're meeting a knight in that phase, then you are going to be waiting a long time. I met a guy at the retreat I was telling you before that he was 19 when he got married, and he was 31. By the time he was 31, he had 5 kids. This is not average, but this is possible. So there is no, I think she speaks about it in her books. The youngest king she met was in his late 30s. Mm-hmm. Most men, especially in today's day and age, it's all happening a little bit later. Yeah. And I was 33 when I realized I needed to go back to my night stage because I never did it.
Oh, I didn't realize you went back to that. Okay.
Yeah. You can't skip a stage, and this is the problem. And a lot of guys, the fear-based society that we live in says you have to hurry up and make money and then get married and then have kids and a family and get a mortgage and do all these things.
Relationship.
And then suddenly you're 35 and you're like, fuck, this is not what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And this is not the life I want to live. And thankfully for me, I didn't have kids and I didn't have these other responsibilities, which all of my other friends had at the time. Mm-hmm. So I was able to just be like, peace out, I'm doing my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I see this. We were just talking about this as well, that this is the first generation we're restarting. We're restarting in our like mid to late 30s, a lot of us, right? And it's both liberating and very confusing. Like, I'm thinking about my ex-boyfriend who is about to turn 40 next year, and his startup failed, and I could not understand why he didn't want me around still when that was happening. Like, I was there to help him. And he was like, I feel the way, I feel all these things. It's just, I can't even. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You can't commit. What are you talking about? You don't want me along for this ride with you. So how do these stages, I guess, factor into the ability to provide and protect? Like, do you need the monetary value to be able to provide, or are there other ways you could show up as a man without that? Because I find this is like a cop-out that I'm hearing a lot, where we live in this over-preparation culture right now. And I think there's a fine line there where you just have to do the thing, right? And this is something that our previous generations, no perfect system, but the happiest relationships are like the ones that committed at a younger stage and then rode it through. It gets messier as the further along we go. And then I think the most successful, like actual subset of relationships are those that met in their formative years and then reconnected later in life. But yeah, what does that look like in terms of providing and protecting if a man is starting over, if he hasn't found his passion yet? Like, does he really need to find that to escalate to become a late stage prince and let alone king?
Yeah, that's a very multi-layered question.
I don't sleep much.
No, it's one part of it is a lot of guys think I just have to provide financially and then that's it. So they get into a relationship and they make all the money and then they are emotional wrecks and they're completely void of any kind of deeper connection. And then you get guys in relationships who can't provide or don't provide as much as she does, because that's also the society we've kind of moved into. And then there's this feeling of inadequacy because I can't provide and then I'm useless. But provision is not just a financial thing. And this is what a lot of men need to understand. It's like emotional safety is massive and it's so rare for so many women because we were never taught. Because when we were boys, man up and kind of crying is for girls and all of these other things, it's like, oh, fuck, okay, it's not safe to show emotion. So I'll bottle it up. And then we become adults and it's like, why can't you show emotion? So, fuck, I wasn't allowed to. So if we feel too uncomfortable, we'll try and fix or shut down what is happening so we then feel comfortable. So, and for a lot of men, their mothers were the emotional kind of safety net. So the feminine in their life was the emotional safety net. And then he moves on and he's with his wife or his woman and she breaks down emotionally and then his safety net's gone and it's like, fuck, what do I do? So he tries to fix or he shuts down, which makes her feel unsafe, which often makes her feel like she's too much. Often he will also say she's too much just because he's not wide enough to be able to hold her. So this is one part of it. That provision is not just a financial thing. And because of the way that the society is going, a lot of women do just make more money than their men. And what else can you provide for her that she can't provide for herself? And this is, you know, a very close friend of mine, she had 2 kids and she built an online mini empire and he quit his job to help her out. So they created this beautiful life, but she was taking care of the money, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. And she's like, it's like I got fucking 3 kids. Mm-hmm. And for him, it was a matter of what can I do that she can't? And what can I bring to this that she can't? And in that way, he took some of the load off her, and this is how he started to rebalance that dynamic and shift the polarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another layer there.
Yeah, I mean, I know plenty of men that it's not even that the woman makes more money. It's like or I'm talking about like single men, and many of them have been in relationships. I'm thinking of one in particular, who was engaged to a close friend of mine. And he's like, why should I have to take care of this if, you know, what's she bringing? And it's like, she could be anyone. It's just women in general. And this is like the challenge I think we're really facing is these generalizations of like all women this, all men this, which it drives me nuts. You know, I was just telling you that the number of times I hear women say men are the fucking worst, I can't stand men, and roll their eyes. And it's such a flippant remark for them. And then men are saying, well, like, you know, women are just like feminists these days. What are they bringing to the table? And it's all of this generalist speak. So for the man that like, you know, who isn't with someone and who's still saying like, why should I have to provide? Why should I have to pay? What do you say to that man?
You don't. He doesn't have to provide anything.
Yeah.
He can do whatever he thinks is best. Because we live in a society where we're trying to create sameness, where everybody is equal and everybody's allowed to do and have the same thing. And what a sad state of affairs this is going to be.
Yeah.
I had somebody, it happens a lot, but I had somebody message like, it's 2024, why should I have to open the door for her?
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to open the door. And then why should I have to pay the bill? She makes money, why can't we just split the bill? It's like, sure. But look how long that relationship will last, where it's passionate and sexy and desirable, and it's going to be, you become either best friends or she resents you because it's not sexy.
Because you're already entering it with animosity against the other, against the opposite sex. Why should I have to? You know, who hurt you back when that you're bringing that into someone that's anonymous at this point or that's new, that's, you know?
And it's also this resistance to anything that was considered some kind of patriarchal role model.
Yeah.
Patriarchal, not role model, the gender roles of, I heard some girls say it's, don't let a man open the door for you because it's just the patriarchy asserting control.
Yeah.
And this is this deep wounding that you speak of. And I've never met anybody who truly understands polarity, including, especially women, including men who say this is not fair or this is not right. Because when you truly understand it, it allows each of us to live from the deepest essence of who we are. And that is where our power is. And it's not about domination. It's not about control. That's actually the opposite of it. It's about living from the truth of who we are in a way that inspires and empowers our partner. And when you do that, then they do that. And when they do that, you do that. And it's just this circular economy of profound depth and love and freedom and beauty and passion and desire. And if you don't want that because you think it's unfair that you got to pay the bill, and sure.
Yeah.
But you're going to be struggling.
So you may have heard me reference, I'm a certified sexologist and sex and intimacy coach for men. So whether it be erectile issues, performance anxiety, premature ejaculation, or repressed desire, porn dependency, disconnection, sexual shame, I help men rewire their bodies and their minds and sex lives through a holistic framework that I developed that actually works. So go to www.coralosborne.com/podcast for more info about working with me and to sign up for access to tools, offers, and insights exclusively for listeners. Sex is a metaphor for how you do life. So master your relationship to it and everything else follows. Yeah. And this factors into, you did a post or a couple posts recently on, one was you asked women what their men or men did to make them truly melt. And then you asked men the same of like whatever, how they felt valued or fulfilled or whatever it was. And the complete opposite responses that you got, where women, it was very much like romance driven. And then with men, it was like sex driven. And, you know, I know because I've studied some elements of Tantra and I'm actually doing ISTA training this summer. And I came by that totally organically from the opposite end of the spectrum, which I thought was sexual liberation. But can you explain how men and women receive love differently and how that works with Tantra and negative and receptive poles?
Yeah, I did. I made a little mistake on that because it was I said, what's the number one way he makes your heart melt? And then for him, it was what's the number one way she blows your mind or something. Yeah. So it was slightly nuanced. The wording was a little bit different because, you know, I can't remember how many responses I got from the women, and I got 10% of that from the men. And I knew that was going to be the case.
Of course.
But yeah, what you're speaking to is this, if you look at the energetic polarity of our bodies, a man's genitals is a positive pole, so it penetrates the world. And then his navel is a receptive pole, and then his solar plexus are positive and his heart is receptive. So when you match that up with a woman, her genitals are receptive, and then her navel is positive, her solar plexus are receptive, and her heart is positive. So it matches perfectly energetically. But what that means is if you want to open a man's heart, then his genitals energetically need to be open. Or it's much easier to open his heart when his genitals are open. Whereas for a woman, if you want to open her genitals, it's much easier if her heart is open. So we go about it different ways. Like we receive it in different ways. We receive love in different ways. And the problem is that we treat the other as if they're the same. Mm-hmm. So a lot of men, when they're horny, they go straight for a woman's genitals because that's what he would want.
Yeah.
where it's not actual reality. So, and a lot of women will go straight for a man's heart because they want to open his heart, where he's like, oh, fuck, I don't know. And it's just, we're just different. And this is what I was speaking to earlier. And if we understand that difference, it's like, oh, okay, I want to open his heart. So I'm actually going to get closer and physically connect with him. And through that physical connection, it's going to be much easier for him to open his heart and be more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if you are desiring physical intimacy with a woman, don't go for her genitals. Yeah. Actually have deeper conversations with her and really try and connect with her on a heart level first. And that way she's going to be far more inclined to open up to you.
Yeah. Can you speak to your experience with sexuality? I know you said you had some porn issues previously, and then doing all this work, you like transformed your relationship to sex and intimacy. What was the shift? Where were you coming from? And then, you know, what was the work and where are you now?
Yeah, it was a fucking mess. Right. I mean, you know, I had a pretty intense, well, it's relative. I spoke to somebody who had a porn addiction. He'd watch 7 to 8 hours of porn a day. That's intense.
For sure.
That's, but I would watch it every morning, and I'd maybe during the day, and then definitely at night. And I would jerk off every time, and I was in this like depletion, this energetic depletion, and had erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation. And so no wonder my marriage fell apart. And the thing that I did first when I went traveling after the darkroom was, I need to deal with this. And it must be Tantra. That must be the thing, because I know nothing else. And I got into this Tantra workshop, and they start to talk about, you know, opening your heart. And I'm like, this is not what I want.
This isn't fucking.
This is, I want like sex.
Yeah.
But I was like, actually, this is also quite nice. There's something to this, but it's not what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. So I got into Neo-Tantra, which is more the Ista. It's very much not based on Tantra at all. It's just very much sexuality. And at some point, after a peyote ceremony in Mexico, I met a woman I was deeply magnetized to, and I couldn't figure it out. But I was just like, there's something about this woman that I just really like to be around. And turns out that she's a Tantra teacher, well, not even a teacher, she was a Tantrika, and she has a very powerful practice, and she doesn't teach it. But she mentioned that she would love to do a retreat with just her and a man that would allow her to explore a way that she can actually hone her skills. And I was on my way to Peru, and she's like, I hate plant medicine. It's poison. Mm-hmm. Pleasure is my medicine.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, cool. Have fun. And she said, do you want to do it with me? I was like, oh, okay. No, let me think about that. And I went with her for 3 weeks in the mountains of Mexico, and all of these books that I'd been reading but not really truly understanding was like, oh, okay. And at some point, when we went to have sex for the first time, I was like floppier than ever. And I'm like, this is a thing.
Yeah.
And she touched a point in my body, and she's like, does this hurt? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, right, you're completely blocked. It's like, oh, well, what do I do about that? And she's like, I'll just de-armor you. I'm like, oh, okay. And she did, and that was it. And this started a pretty deep journey into, okay, now semen retention. How does that work? And what is the benefit of that? And I, at some point, had a full-bodied orgasm for the first time.
Multi-orgasmic man, right?
So I went and studied with Mantak Chia and just kind of went really deep into that world. And realized how that it can be incredibly esoteric, but it's actually not that difficult. It's actually quite simple.
Yeah, I came into sexology. I mean, I was in sex work and then wanted to figure out the cerebral part of that. So went into sexology and read The Erotic Mind by Jack Morin, and that was fascinating to me. And then I'd had fleeting moments of like some like encounters with the divine, like with certain partners, and I could never figure it out. I was just like, sometimes time would just stand still and it was kind of like a psychedelic experience, but I could never figure out how I got there, and then I could never get it back. But I always felt like there was something more to sex that I wasn't privy to. And then so I started this embodied psychosexual training with Dr. Saida Desailly. Her partner's Erin Michael, famous sexologist too. And I was just in Sedona a couple of weeks ago doing that live training with them, and I had a heartgasm. Like it was that like, and if I would have said those words 2 years ago, I would have like punched myself in the face. Like, a heartgasm, shut up, Coral. Like, that doesn't exist. Holy shit. And I'm a skeptic. I was born a skeptic. And like, the deeper I get into this work, I'm like, this is real. It sounds esoteric. And then you just have one of those pivotal transformative experiences and you're like, oh my God, this whole erotic landscape, I didn't even know what was possible. Like, we live in one dimension of sexuality, and that's the sympathetic state, right? That we're not in relaxed arousal, we're not in true connection. And just by that experience alone, it's opened up so many other components. And like, most men have no idea they can be multi-orgasmic, they can have full body orgasms, right? And so I remember when I first heard about semen retention, because I come from a clinical background, it's like, oh, like, there's no data to prove this, blah, blah, blah. No one's measuring the energy, right? No one's actually trying it. None of these doctors who are compiling the data are actually trying this. They don't have any lived experience. Lived experience counts for everything. So like, how transformative that is can only be attested to from the people that have undergone it.
Yeah.
Like,
somebody said to me once, we've been given the keys to a Ferrari, but never been taught how to take it out of first gear. And it's like, so true.
Yeah.
And for most men, they're like, semen retention, why would I do that? Or because you don't know that you can separate your ejaculation and your orgasm. It's two separate bodily functions. Like, no, it's just the one. It's like, wow, that's why. So why would you kind of not allow yourself to experience the pleasure of ejaculation, which is the main kind of pain point? Because why should she get all the pleasure and then I'm not allowed to ejaculate? And it's like, well, because you can have more pleasure than you've ever had in your life, but you just need discipline. And most guys have never experienced going longer than a week without ejaculating since they were teenagers. So they're literally living energetically depleted. And you do semen retention for 3 or 4 weeks, you're a new human.
Yeah.
But that takes pretty staunch discipline. And for a lot of men, ejaculation is an escape. And it's I don't want to feel the thing that I have to feel, so I'm going to just jerk off and then not have to feel it.
Yeah.
And I want to distract myself from life, so I'm just going to jerk off. And this is why, in my opinion, porn is so prevalent and easily accessible, because it diminishes men, obviously, and women, but it's this, how to keep a man weak and depleted and controllable. You take his life force. And porn is the easiest way to do it. So have that experience. A friend, she's talks about her eargasms, and for most people, they're like, fuck, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, that I remember the moment I had this full-bodied orgasm, I still had my pants on. Like, it's just, and it lasted for what felt like minutes. And it changed my life.
Yeah.
Like, it was that powerful.
Like spiritual.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And what does that do with your ability to connect, especially with women, like going in that direction of tantra practices and semen retention?
Well, this is a whole new seedy world of of why I got into men's work, actually, because I spent a lot of time in those worlds, the neo-tantra, the Easter, the lived in Berlin, so there's a lot of
Berlin said, enough said.
yeah, and there's a lot of spiritual fuckboys who know the lingo, know exactly what to say, know how to touch you, and are unwilling or unable to be responsible enough to hold a woman whose heart he's just opened. So I had a conversation with a woman the other day, and she said, "Oh my God, I've just had the most powerful connection of my life with a man, but he's not sure if he's able to commit." It's like, right, so you think he had the most amazing connection ever? Because if he did, he probably would be open to committing.
Yeah.
And it's a skill set, and it's a skill set which a lot of men are learning, but they don't know how to hold because they don't have the maturity to hold it. So I got into this work and I started to teach this work, and at the same time I was getting deeper and deeper into men's work, and I was realizing that these worlds are full of trauma or leaky, damaging energy of guys just going around and perpetuating more and more wounding under the guise of free love and spirituality and whatever.
Call it spiritual molestation.
Yeah. And it's a skill set where I could probably open up women far more easily and deeper than their partners could without touching them. And you give that into the wrong hands of the wrong man, and then suddenly it's just a fucking train wreck of trauma. So this is why men's work's so important. And it's why understanding this energy and having, what's that Spider-Man quote? With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah. What happens in one of your retreats? What are the pillars that you cover?
The men's retreats, it's kind of, it's different every time. And it's different every time because, you speak of the masculine being the container and the feminine being everything that happens within it. So we set the structure, and the structure is it starts at this time, it ends at this time. And that's the structure of the retreat. And then it might be, okay, we have the structure of the workshop and it goes from this time to this time. But whatever happens in that is flexible. And, we talk about this a lot. We just finished a retreat yesterday. What we set out to do and what we had kind of scheduled in and blocked in was completely different to what happened, because we got in and the men came in and, okay, this guy's holding more shame, like that's ready to kind of pop. And then this guy's got a deeper wound about this, and this guy can't feel anything. And then, okay, so let's do a practice where we get to actually bring them all in together and see what can provide the deepest experience, rather than, okay, this is what we're doing regardless of where everybody's at, and then we're just going to do the next thing. And this is this kind of...
You have to attune to it.
Absolutely. And it's this rigidity that is not helpful in life or in retreat or whatever. So first night, 45 minutes in, this guy is in his 50s, he's married, his kids, I think, are about to leave home. He's like, I don't cry. And he was a fucking mess. And it provided a space for him to actually feel what he's holding on to. Another guy came, similar age, successful business guy. His wife came to a retreat, a women's retreat that I did earlier, a couple of months ago, and she was like, look, I'm kind of done. He's not willing to do what I need him to do, and he can't show up for me like I need him to, and I think I'm done. And, a couple of months later, he turns up to this, and he was a fucking mess the whole time, because he was feeling things that he never allowed himself to feel because he never felt safe enough to feel them. So this was kind of one part of it, of going deep into the shame that we all hold.
How do you do that? How do you evoke that, bringing the shame up in a healthy container for these men? How does this come up? Or is that top secret?
There are certain things I just wouldn't say, but you have to provide for them a space where they feel safe. And that is safe in a way that they're not going to feel judged. They're not going to feel alone. They're not going to feel like this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we begin with connection, and we begin with, you stand in front of a man, and rather than, yeah, mate, did you see the footy score? It's like, what's something you're proud of? So, okay, so I can share that. It's not too bad. And then maybe it gets to, what's a wound that you've been carrying that you've never shared? And then it's like, oh, fuck. And then the first guy goes, and maybe he doesn't bring the deepest thing, but maybe he brings something that's pretty substantial. And the other guy's like, oh, fuck, I didn't realize that that's okay to share, so I'll share mine. And then suddenly you start to deepen these men in ways that most of them have never felt. And then it's like a natural progression of like, holy shit, I'm starting to feel.
Mm.
How deep can I go? I'm not going to go all the way, but I might dip a toe in. Actually, that feels okay. Maybe I'll dip a foot in. And then, that's within the first hour. And this is a 4 or 5 day retreat. And this goes deep. I can't remember how we got onto that.
The pillars of
it's okay. Yeah. Depth is the other one. One of the major ones. It's this capacity to sit and to breathe and to rest your awareness on consciousness. Most retreats, the problem with modern men's work is kind of similar to this Instagram world where you have one experience and you're like, fuck yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then you run off and you do something that you're totally not qualified or capable of doing, but you had your experience and therefore you want to give that experience to others. So there's a lot of men's work, and a lot of it is
people are ill-equipped to facilitate that.
Well, there's it doesn't come from any lineage. Right. Like, we're going to do ice baths and breath work and fucking beat our chest and scream around the fire, and it's like, okay, great. And there is benefit to it, but there's no depth.
Yeah.
And to touch depth is something that women yearn for and most men have no capacity for.
Mm-hmm.
So, to rest as the awareness itself, men are like, oh, fucking what? And so we take them into practices where you get to experience that. You get to see beyond your expression and beyond your pain and beyond all these things, and you get to have an experience of consciousness. And you take that to your woman and sit in front of her and just breathe deeply, and she will have an experience.
Yeah.
And so the problem with this modern men's work is that most of it is just feminine expression. All expression is feminine. The container of that is the masculine. The awareness of it is the masculine. So you get a guy who sits in a practice and beats his chest or screams or dances or runs around the fire, whatever. It's all feminine. But put him in that practice and then get him to shift his awareness onto consciousness itself, and that is a different thing. So I've had women come to me saying, I don't want to date a man that does men's work because he's more vulnerable than I am. Because he's tapped into this well.
Me a couple years ago.
Well, he's tapped into this well of pain, and now it just won't stop, and he can't hold me, and I've got to hold him, and this sucks. Mm-hmm. It's like, right, because he was never taught to feel it, but at the same time hold it. Mm-hmm. And if you can't hold it, then she needs to. Yeah. And if she needs to hold it all the time, then that's the polarity's switched, and that's not fun.
Yeah, I have an experience actually happened last year to me. Some of you may have found this podcast through my work as a sexologist. What you might not know is that I support individuals in deepening their relationship to their sexuality. So whether that means working through performance issues, inability to orgasm, repressed desire, low libido, problem sexual behavior, shame, or disconnection from the body, I use a biopsychosocial spiritual framework that I developed in order to help people rewire their outdated patterns and integrate their sexual selves. Because how you relate to your sexuality is how you relate to everything. Go to www.coralosborne.com/podcast for more information about working with me and to sign up for access to tools, offers, and insights exclusively for listeners. Kind of heavy, but I got pregnant unexpectedly, and it was with someone I was not in a relationship with, who was a close friend. And his response to when I shared it with him, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm, my later 30s almost. I'd never been pregnant, and it kind of seemed like this divine thing, and mind you, my hormones were all over the place playing tricks on me. But I was so calm, and I knew I could just handle whatever outcome, and I wasn't sure where I was going to land on it. But when I shared with him, the way he responded was like horrific, like, flipping around the floor, like, no, I can't believe this is the worst thing that's ever happened. I can't breathe. And there I am consoling him, and making sure he's okay. And I'm like, I'm in this too, right? And that was just the tip of the iceberg. And it was not a pleasant journey. But what I realized is, like, I found myself going to men 30 years ago before I wouldn't have done this, and this is the thing. It's like, and then we ended up actually going to couples therapy together one time, because I was searching for, like, after I, terminated the pregnancy, I was searching to, like, make meaning out of this. And I was so hurt by his response. And once again, it was about him, he started crying, and he was like interrupting me. And to the point where the therapist was like, okay, you understand that she's having to be the man, the woman, the therapist, the friend, the mother, the everything. And that's how I felt. And I feel like this is a big theme for men and women these days. And yes, we want a man's vulnerability, but, like, to an extent, I don't really know how to explain that or to put words around it, because I do think, similarly to what you were saying, it can be, like, almost weaponized, and women do this too, right? Women will manipulate and play the damsel in distress and whatever. But what I'm seeing as a trend now is that, yeah, I don't want to be in my masculine. Like, I am really trying to actively deprogram that. And then that experience just put me straight back into that spot. And do you see a lot of that, in these days? And how do you address that?
How do I address it personally or with other men?
Yeah, with other men.
It's a thing because men have never been taught how to hold their emotions. It was never, I speak for myself, it was never safe. I could do it with mum, but I never had a man there to be like, to model it for me. So it was always uncomfortable. And then, as I spoke to earlier, if his mother was the only emotional safety net that he had, then the feminine becomes that for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he also probably just doesn't understand how this kind of energetic works and what women need. And so he's in his pain because this is his experience, because he has no masculine capacity. And this is a reality for so many. Mm. There are very simple ways to train that, and that is to expand your nervous system's capacity to hold more energy. So you put yourself in uncomfortable positions and you breathe. And every part of you wants to eject because this sucks and this is not fun, and it's okay, but breathe. Mm-hmm. You're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. And the longer you do that, the more resilience you build, then something comes and it's okay because you can breathe. Yeah. And, I had this experience. My boy is 8 months old, and I think he was 4 or 5 days old, and we were called to go back to hospital, to the emergency room at 11:30 on a Friday night. And she's like, basically, we need to inject him with antibiotics for a week, and if we don't, he could die. And it was just like, whoa, okay, this is... I heard fatherhood would be tough, but I haven't slept in days, and this is a lot. and we need to make a decision and we need to do it now. So what do you want to do? And it's like, whoop. And my wife was like, no, being a mother and being in her deepest, most exhausted, her body is not healed. This is too much for her. And every part of me wanted to just fucking break down and run and be like, can somebody take care of this? And it's like, how is that going to serve anything?
Right.
So I breathed. And we made a decision. And I took care of her and I took care of him and everything was good. And at some point I had to go home to pick up some clothes or something because he had to stay in hospital for a week. And I went home and I fucking broke down. And then I got my stuff together and went back to the hospital and was good. So I needed, and it actually took me quite a few months of intentional work to release what was in the body after that experience. And it rocked me probably harder than I thought it did. And in the end, it was fine. But it was in this moment, you know, similar to your experience. It's like in this moment, if I drop to the floor and like, oh, poor me, this is like, what, how does that
serve anyone?
How does that serve anything?
Yeah.
And the more, and you know, I spoke about this experience a lot to other men of like, this work that we do is the most beautiful practice especially for fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Fatherhood is the most challenging masculine practice I've ever had. It's like you're in it. He needs something. You don't know what that is. You're trying to figure it out. It's not good enough. You haven't slept. He's just shit everywhere. It's just like, it's a lot and it's intense. And I've kind of realized why men just take off.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot.
Yeah.
And
you're being faced with your own shit and not being able to fix it right there and
exactly,
seeing results right
exactly.
on the spot.
So part of it is like, you know, I want him to be okay. He is okay. He's safe. You know, he's in discomfort, likely because he won't stop crying. But, you know, he's not in danger and I'm really uncomfortable because he's just screaming and it's 3 a.m. So what do? I breathe. And I show him that I'm there and I'm not going to go anywhere. And it's an incredibly powerful practice, which just every time we do some kind of exercise at a retreat, it's like, this is fucking easy.
Yeah.
Even when it's really uncomfortable, this is
Yeah.
actually, I could sit here for 20 minutes and I'd be okay.
Yeah.
Because it's actually quite simple.
Yeah. I really loved your post when I think your son was just maybe a month or 2 and you just you expressed how brutally exhaustive and like real this was, and this was the most challenging thing you've been faced with, and like the humility you had in expressing that I just think was so valuable. And like, I don't have children of my own, but just for someone like you to still show that side of you, that transparency, and that, you know, you're not perfect and you're still figuring this out and you've done all this work and yet you have this infant and you still can't get him to stop crying, and like you're faced with your own shit again head on, right?
Yeah, and it's something I really hate about social media is this idea that everything's got to be perfect and look perfect and I'm totally healed and I've all my shit figured out. And it's just not true.
Yeah.
And the more people I meet who have some kind of a extensive following and I meet them on a personal level, it's like, oh, nobody's got their shit together.
Yeah.
And the more real we can be, so many people message me after that saying, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, because I'm in it as well. And it's like, of course, we're all in it. And we get to see the beautiful experience of being a father has shown me how difficult it is, which gives me more compassion for my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't have Instagram where it's like, okay, this is okay. And this is how they dealt with this. Okay. They were just in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to deal with it. And they got told, you know, back then sleep training's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, okay, that goes against my intuition, but the doctor said it must be okay. And now you can just look that stuff up. And it's like, oh, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No. So I'm going to co-sleep with my kid because that's what he needs. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to be sleep deprived for a few years because
For a few years.
that's what he needs. Yeah. Yeah, I get sleep shame.
Yeah.
People, they show off their Oura-ring
Yeah.
screenshots of like 97 and 98. I'm like, 55. Yeah.
Oh my God. And you lived in Berlin too. So like, that's a real
Though,
statement.
yeah,
right
those,
there.
well, this is, I was like, I'm sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
I used to go 4 or 5 days without
Oh
sleep.
my God. Yeah.
This would be fine.
Yeah.
No, it is a whole new thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wake up every 2 hours for 30 minutes.
But that co-regulation is so important. As I was sharing earlier, I could not figure out the source of my issues with choosing unavailable men. And then doing some shadow work, realizing through speaking with my mother and my father that he was away for those first 3 years of my life as a true musician. He was gone for weeks on end. Best of intentions, incredible parents. I love them so much. But then that led to me choosing unavailable men because I equated love with longing and yearning and distance. And then, full presence was like overwhelming for me when my dad would come back. I guess my mom said that he would be unsure how to fit back into the family dynamic. And like, I was kind of like, oh, he was 27 or something when he had me, so younger. And then I would mirror that back to him. So we were both kind of like a little uneasy, and then filling in the gaps of like with fantasy, like, so, but yeah, full presence always scared the shit out of me. So of course I would choose unavailable men. How did that pan out for you in your upbringing? I know you've spoken about you had some father stuff and surface, again, it wasn't like capital T extreme trauma, but it all made sense to you at a later time.
No, I had, on paper, I had very wonderful parents, and they're still together, and I love them very dearly. And just before I went into the dark room, I met a channeler, and he told me all of these things.
It's channeler.
His grandfather was a shaman, and I think his other grandfather was a doctor. No, he was a doctor. His grandfather was a shaman. So he had kind of one foot in both worlds.
I love that. That's
and
my favorite.
He was this quirky, gay 60-year-old it was just a very interesting guy. And through a lot of synchronicity, somebody's like, you should go see Dr. Bill. I'm like, okay. And I went and spoke to him, and I walked into the room, and he looked at me and he said, you've just come out of a relationship. She broke your heart. I'm like, how the fuck do you know that? And then he started riffing, and he's just telling me all of these things and answering all of these questions, which I didn't know I had. I didn't know what the question was, but I was looking for the answer.
Right.
And he was just giving it to me. And at some point he said, and don't blame your father, you chose him. And I'm like, huh? And a lot of what this guy said actually came true and was a thing. And, including a crypto thing that he came out with.
Where is this guy?
Yeah, I think he might have died now, actually. But, he said, don't blame your father, you chose him. And I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, I got a great relationship. And a couple of years later, once I got into men's work, I'm like, oh shit, okay. Because I wouldn't be doing what I do if I had a unicorn father that was always present and emotionally available. And
there's nothing to solve for.
Right. I mean, there always is, but
yeah. What's a unicorn father after?
So yeah, I realized at some point that his emotional unavailability was one of the core wounds within my parents' relationship, which caused these other things, which caused these things within me, and the way that I would show up. And he would always go down to the shed.
Very dad thing to do.
Yeah. So he'd work all day and then go home to the shed. So I never really spent that quality time in some of those years with him. And my wife says to me, you've gone to the shed, when I kind of switch off and go inward. And it was through therapy that I kind of realized that I was doing what he was doing. And then we've had a lot of really powerful conversations around his childhood and his upbringing and the the pattern recognition of like his dad would go dig holes.
Wow.
And then he would go into the shed, and then now I go into my head,
Mm-hmm.
because if I had a shed, I'd fucking definitely go in it.
Yeah.
And to see the pattern, so now I have my son, it's like, okay, so that's going to stop. And, oh, there's awareness around that. That's a conversation I have to have with him. And, yeah, it was, I've been doing this for like 10 years, and it keeps going. Mm-hmm. There are more and more layers, and I've had some really, really uncomfortably powerful experiences in my life where 2 of them were pretty big T trauma, and they were on account of me subconsciously trying to heal my father wound through other men, which I didn't realize until I was in therapy, and super resistant to it, but I stuck with it. And at some point he just starts to unpeel these layers of the onion, and just the depth of like, oh my God, that's what that was. That's why that happened. That's why I'm like this. That's why, a really beautiful example. I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but for me it was this realization that I can't receive praise. I receive a lot of praise, don't receive it. Doesn't land. And to the point where I'll actually just deflect it. And when I was young, I would always I would receive you have so much potential, which made me feel like I'm not good enough the way that I am, because I could be better.
Right.
Not their intention, but as a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, whatever, that's kind of the way that it was.
The meaning you give to it.
And so now I receive praise, but my boy never did, so I don't receive it. So when I do receive it now, or when I hear it, instead of it coming to me, I give it to my little boy. Game changer.
Wow.
Game
That's
changer.
a crazy tool.
And somebody will say something and I'll just be like, yeah, thanks. And it's just, sorry.
Yeah.
And it shifted everything. And one of the practices we have after a retreat is that we sit and there's 3 of us that lead them, and we do a praise circle. And we praise what we see in the other man, and how he showed up, and the things that he does and the way that he lives, and we really honor him in a way that he just has to sit there and receive it. And every single time it's happened, I've just been like, oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And last night after a retreat, we sat there and I received it, and it landed, and it was like, holy shit, like what a phenomenal experience from therapy that has been able to pull this thread, which I'd never known about. I just always knew that I feel uncomfortable receiving praise. To have this tool of giving that to my little boy instead. Yeah. Now he's got it. Yeah. And now I can get it.
Yeah. So you still actively work on yourself, obviously, too. Do you still go to therapy? What's the big piece that you're getting there, and what other things do you do that you're trying to solve for continuously?
Therapy was a request from my oracle. I had a little shadow that I was unwilling to look at, and she's like, I need you to go to therapy for it. And I resisted it. No, I can just drink ayahuasca or do breath work or something that's like
white
there.
Yeah.
And I sat with the therapist, and it was just a disaster. And so, all right, I'll get another one.
Well, finding a good therapist is like finding a partner. And so many people will give up the first time. And it's like, I'm like, when do you trust like that person, the first date you go on where you're like, yeah, I'm in, I'm all in. No, you got to shop around a little bit.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard that. And that's so true because I've spoken to so many people. Yeah, I did therapy. It sucked.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally most, like all men. And I'm like, so I just bring it back to my experience. I think same with gynecologists, by the way. It's like you got to go to like 15. There's like stats before you find one that you land on and that resonates with you and is actually like cares about the work. And
okay, right. Yeah, so I found this one therapist and he's cold and he is short, as in like his responses are short. He's this Greek guy and there was something about him that he always challenged me and he's always like, he gives me nothing. Mm-hmm. Like he'll just wait and we'll sit in silence. Yeah, and there was something about the way that he was with me that I was like, okay, I'm going to hang around. And I've been with him for 8 or 9 months, I think. Mm-hmm. And that's how long it took. And now I'm revealing things about myself that, you know, many, many ceremonies and many breathwork sessions and men's circles and none of that got anywhere close. Yeah. So there's definitely something to say for therapy, for talk therapy. Yeah. I'm a firm believer of releasing things from the nervous system, which you cannot do in talk therapy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I do, you know, this work that I do for others, I do for myself constantly because it's not, oh, I'm healed. Like that shit is never going to happen. There's always going to be more. Yeah. And it makes life easier. It makes life better. It makes relationships easier and better and deeper. So why would I stop? Yeah. Like it's just, it's my life now. And I got into this for me. And it just so happened that others now benefit from that. Yeah. And that's the big trust piece too, is like I wouldn't trust anyone that isn't continuously doing the work themselves. Yeah. Like, you know, I'm going down this path of sexual sovereignty to heal my own wounds with my sexuality and what I've made up about it and the performative sex I've been having and the inability to connect with others because of that, of the opposite sex. And like this summer, you know, I'm doing ISTA and I'm training with Aaron and Saida down in Greece. And like, I'm really committing, like, and I am never going to be done this work. And the deeper I go, the, you know, less the more I realize I don't know, but then it's just this insatiable quest and this thirst that you have to learn more. Mm. And like, I struggle between like the seeking part and then the integration part, right? Because I find that's always a balance. I read like at least a book a week, sometimes 2. And when I was just in Costa Rica a couple months ago, I actively was like, okay, I need to go on I got a download to go on a cognitive fast. I was like, I need to just learn to sit with all this knowledge I've accumulated, this wisdom I've accumulated, and not just collect and go on to the next thing. And that's like my challenge. So it forever is a balance. But that's a beautiful practice. Yeah. To sit, do not read a book for a month. Yeah. Yeah. And to actually just, you know, maybe journal a lot. Yeah. And not look at articles on my phone either. That's the other piece, right? But yeah, the reflective bit. I have a couple last questions for you. What do you wish that more women knew about men? We do feel and we want to feel. We often just don't feel safe enough or know how. We want to love you. We often we're never taught how to do it in a way that you receive it. And sometimes we just need to be held without being questioned. And what's the best thing we could do to foster that connection? Sometimes it's to just go up and stroke his chest or hug him and hold him and not say anything. It's this, we spoke of it earlier, we seek freedom. Mm-hmm. And the more we have to speak about something, the more stressful, the less freedom there is. And the more we are just held in it, with the trust that we can take care of it without needing to share all about it is something really beautiful in that. Like, for a woman to hear the words, "I'll love you always until the end of time." Yeah, it's kind of similar to a man hearing the words, "I'll trust you and follow you anywhere."
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just something so nourishing for us.
Right.
Less words and more physical. It's just like, I trust you.
Yeah.
You've got this.
Yeah. That helps. I need to sit with that one for sure. And what are you up to in the coming months, and where can we find you?
So at the end of May, beginning of June in Ibiza, we have a men's and women's retreat. A super deep, super powerful 5 days. Very exciting. And then straight after that in Sweden, very small group of men in the middle of nature, no internet, no electricity, no running water.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most exciting and deepest experiences I have planned and will enjoy myself. So there's nothing more nourishing for men than men and nature. And then, beyond that, many other things that you can find on my Instagram.
Which is?
Nic Warner. Nic Warner. That's it.
Okay.
Well,
thanks so much, Nic. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you for listening today. You can follow us on the Next Man Up _pod on Instagram or on YouTube at Next Man Up with Coral. Please feel free to slide into my DMs with any thoughts, feelings, or praise, and let me know who you think should be the next man up.